Coming up next on the CHGO Cubs podcast, Craig Counsell's report card is here and just in time for his mentor to be named manager of the year. Does any of it matter? Plus, Jed Hoyer speaks in Vegas. He says pitching is the focus as he laid the groundwork for a firearm to be named and added to this team. My good name has been cleared of all wrongdoing. CHGO Cubs next.
He's free.
Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by our friends at Toyota. Let's go places. We will go places today. We're going to go to Report Cardville,
yes,
where we hand out a grade for Craig Counsell just hours after his mentor was named manager of the year for the second straight year. Does that matter? Does any of it matter? We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the Japanese market that the Cubs might dip their toe into again and why some of these guys might be a perfect fit for the Cubs.
We'll go to Vegas.
We're going to go to Vegas. We're going to hear from Jed Hoyer in a second. And yes, for everybody that's been wondering that was listening to the score, my name has been cleared. My name has been cleared of all wrongdoing. 30 years of impeccable record of it's all clear.
Walk the streets with your head held up high once more.
And at the end of the day, fake Chicago sports media beef can be credited to Mike Prasnowski for simply just tweeting something.
The Praz, that's right.
Sicko in the chat.
How do I know
Thanks.
him? Beer money contestant.
Oh,
Beer
was
money
he really?
contestant.
Oh.
Yeah, he was a beer money contestant.
Are you willing to reveal?
Was he of legal age at the time? He's only like 31.
I think it was probably called gas money at the time when he first went on it.
Do you remember what he walked away with?
I don't.
Okay.
I remember I think he did it twice. I know the first time he did it was like at a Cubs convention, I think. I don't know if he won or lost. I don't remember. But Praz was definitely a beer money contestant.
Wow. Full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's getting you in trouble.
People asked if I am. People always say, Luke, do you attribute everything on your stories? And I say, always. How many times? 83. That's what I always say. Attribution before aggregation. So everything's been cleared up. We're all good. We're all friends.
Also, just hilarious, too, that that's a famous score clip, yet it's your actual content.
I don't care about any of it. It's
I know.
I know. Yes.
I have stolen that clip plenty of times.
Yeah. Now I have a problem with you. No.
You after the show.
So Jed Hoyer, we're going to play a clip here from Marquee Sports Network. Marquee Sports Network is where you can find your Chicago Cubs games during the season. Make sure you watch Marquee Sports Network. This is from their Twitter page coming up in just a bit. But yeah, Hoyer talked a little bit to reporters in Vegas. We've said this is a lot about laying groundwork. If you're watching on the YouTube page, this clip is from their Twitter page, and you also will get a great shot of very handsome Jesse Rogers from ESPN in the background.
Wearing the same shirt, it looks like.
Whose Twitter page is this, by the way?
This is from Marquee Sports Network.
And that's a TV channel, Marquee?
That is the TV channel where you will find your Chicago Cubs baseball games. And
courteous courtesy.
Boog and JD and everybody and Cole.
The whole gang.
I think we're going to have an active offseason. Take that for what it's worth. I think that we'll, I think the largest focus, will be on pitching. I think that's obvious. I'll look at our depth chart that, I think we're in pretty good position on the position player side. On the pitching side, we're thinner. And so I think that's going to be our focus. And I expect to explore trades. I expect to explore free agency, both, at the top of the market, but then also looking at for minor league free agency. I thought last year in a lot of ways, we gave Boyd a multi-year deal, and then we got a lot of value out of Brad Keller, who was a minor league free agent. And I think all of those Drew Pomeranz, we made a tiny trade for. I think all of those transactions matter, and so I expect to be really active in doing that. I think on the pitching side more than the hitting side.
Again, that was from Marquee Sports Network. And that was Jed Hoyer and Jesse Rogers in the background. And I think it is important that at this point we call out that @SexMachine77 has joined the live YouTube chat.
Yo, right back to you.
Yo, back at you. By the way, I picked up a Starbucks yesterday on the way in. You know how they've got this new thing where they write the names on the cups all of a sudden? All it said, what mine said, was yum. And frankly, I listen, I want you to make this clear on this podcast.
That's borderline harassment.
I am a happily married man with 2 kids. I'm a family man, and I don't approve of your advances.
Get your eyes off his beans.
Just give me my tea.
It says yum today, or cheers today.
Cheer, it does say cheers, yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't write sex machine on your drink.
This is from Sex Machine, not Sax Machine.
Sex machine.
Sack Machine, that's right. So anyways, he's talking about pitching. By the way, did you notice Joey Christopoulos is here and Sean Anderson's running the 1s and 2s? I'm Luke Stuckmeyer. I listened to that Jed thing a couple times, and it did sound like he started out super positive, and then he tried to taper back on those expectations.
Whoa. Did I say top of the market? I mean, I also meant middle of the market.
We'll be busy.
Remember Brad Keller? Remember Drew Pomeranz?
Boston market, farmers market.
Success stories.
I just want to get all the. We're going to look at all the markets.
You speaking of the farmers market, we found this very athletic 38-year-old farmer who we think can throw 94 from the left side.
I was at Crumble the other day. Who wants a Chips Ahoy?
Say, sure, Drew Pomeranz, come on in. So
he was great.
It's hard sometimes to read between the lines with Jed Hoyer, but I do think that he offers breadcrumbs of honesty and truth of what their intentions are from time to time. And I think I think why we rightfully want to play a clip like that is because I think Cubs fans can anticipate they're going to try and do everything they can, and they've got the money to do it. So I don't know what the excuse will be if they don't get it done, that they're going to try and find something on the top end to adorn on top of the rotation like on a Christmas tree and pair it with Cade Horton and roll out a rotation that's going to be more improved than it was last year. Of course, then he made a couple of qualifiers, and we should anticipate more signings because they have to literally turn over most of their bullpen this year. But I think Jed is giving you a little bit of the truth of what their intentions are. And I, as a Cubs fan, I get excited to hear that. I hope that they look at both sides of the ball, but I think pitching will definitely be that priority.
I think it has to be, and I think he's right about that. Like, even if he feels like there's room to improve, and there should be room to improve position in the field, wherever you want, bats, all of that stuff, the lineup, pitching has to be the focus. You saw how important, like, the power arms are, and Bruce Levine, who does work on the score, and a Marquee was, I believe, tweeting out, hey, they're going after power arms. That is not a secret. Like, they have to improve that. Like, they had some pitchers who were very successful at pitching to contact, and that was part of the plan about upgrading your defense and having what was viewed as probably the best team defense in Major League Baseball. But you also got to miss bats. And the game has gone to the high heat. And high heat also can come with injuries. And so you got to stockpile that. When Palencia is pretty much your only guy that's touching 100, you've got to find that guy somewhere else, okay? Whether that's trade market, whether that's free agency, you've got to get creative. But you have to, and you need to develop that as well, obviously. That's what the Brewers have done well. So where do we go with that, right? If they're looking for power arms. Well, Ken Rosenthal was out there saying that basically Mackenzie Gore is probably one of the most likely big-name frontline starters to get moved this offseason, right? His name came up at the trade deadline.
And he came up many times during the trade deadline with us on this show. I think we both wanted him and like him a lot. And I think he's also a young pitcher rounding into form.
He throws pretty hard.
He sure does.
So that'd be one. That's a name that you could put back in there. We did that list of free agents yesterday, or trade targets the other day, and he's got to be on that list.
Yes.
And I would give up a lot for him. Now, you hear people, it's funny at this time of year to hear people, I would give up this. We do it, right? We do it all the time. I would give up this. I've heard people talking about trading PCA to get a front line. Like I would not trade PCA.
Holy moly. Yeah.
I think if I'm talking about two guys that are, nobody's untouchable, but the most untouchable guys in the team are PCA and Cade Horton. Am I wrong about that?
Well, they should be considered the two fixtures on the pitching mound and in the outfield and in your lineup.
We're trying to build on this.
Right.
This.
You want that to be something that you build around for the next 5 or 6 years. There already are these little leaking reports that they may reopen extension talks with PCA this winter. I think Cade Horton, I love the future for him. I think the ceiling is very high and the potential is very great, but I would like to see him do it for a full season, one more year, and check the box of he's healthy with a full complement of 160 to 170 innings, whatever that is. And those hopefully are guys that are controllable options for you to build a team around for years to come.
There is this Japanese connection, right? And the Cubs have done a nice job of making themselves at least a factor in bringing players over Japan, because frankly, you can see how the gap has changed from players all around the world to just coming from the United States. Imanaga was thought of as kind of a throw-in guy, an extra guy coming over 2 years ago. That worked out really well. The Cubs found a way to do it. They tried to hit high end and go Ohtani. They maybe flirted with high-end Yamamoto. Did they really? I don't know. But you can also see that the high-end guys, the success rate of players coming from Japan and being successful at the major league level, it's pretty good.
The delivering on the promise rate is definitely getting higher and higher as these classes and these cycles of Japanese players continue to be posted. 100%.
Right. These are not the days of Matt Merton, no offense, going over to Japan and becoming a home run champ. These are not the days of
Kosuke Fukudome. Just say it.
Kosuke Fukudome coming over and then struggling at the major league level. These are not the days of, who am I thinking of? 3 home runs opening day long ago in my lifetime, and then
Tuffy Rhodes.
Tuffy Rhodes going over to Japan and becoming. The days of that happening are not as often. So,
well, and also really quickly, these guys are also posting at an earlier age, which is again a more attractive piece too as well. And it's funny. We did the trade stuff yesterday, which is always entertaining, and the pool is deeper. You can literally go to any major league team and try and make a compelling argument why this person or player should be on the Chicago Cubs and what we'd be willing to take away. But you talked about at the top here of when Jed Hoyer talks about adding pitching, you would have to think it would have to come with a guy who brings more velocity to a rotation that is pretty contact driven at this time. There just so happens to be a player who led Major League Baseball in K per 9 rate, above Paul Skeens, above Tyreek Skubal, and a guy named Dylan Cease that will only cost you money. And then again, Tatsuya Imai, also 27-year-olds coming over from Japan as well, also tips the scales over 95, can hit 99 as well as too. So there are some options for the Chicago Cubs to explore, and some of those, when we talk about free agent, you can solve the things that you want. You can get things on your shopping list by simply just ponying up the buck.
I wonder, we're going to get to Imai and some of the options out of Japan, and I wonder if, speaking of Japan, how the contract situation with Imanaga and the qualifying offer, which is he's got a deadline of the 18th to decide on that.
Next week, yeah.
How does that situation impact what and when the Cubs actually, that's why you could say for sure this was all groundwork this week. Like they weren't going and getting somebody because they don't know if Shota's back or not back. Well, that's a huge gap in your rotation if he's not back. And Steele's still not going to be ready to go. So that's another one. So we're going to play on the other side of a break, Jed talking about Shota and how that has unfolded and is still for the moment up in the air, whether or not he's going to be a Cub or he's going to pitch for somebody else. And then we'll go from there into the Japanese market that's currently coming over potentially this offseason and see if some of those players might be an even better fit than Shota, if possible, okay? Shout out to our guy Ron, who has just joined the chat. I see Jordo's here. Everybody's in the live YouTube chat here at the all-new CHGO Cubs YouTube channel. Make sure you tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell a total stranger, and then tell a total stranger's neighbor. We're We're going to get to all that stuff in a second. First, though, I want to tell you about some of our great sponsors here on the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by Toyota. Hey, Cubs fans, Toyota has 25 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. Hey, you want to get to that spot to see the Northern Lights?
Yes.
Take your Toyota. The RAV4 has legendary versatility. The Grand Highlander's adult size third row is for real. And the Tacoma's wild side comes standard. From job sites to campsites and game nights, there's an all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive Toyota to get you there in style and safely in this weather. Find yours at Toyota.com or visit your Chicagoland Toyota dealer. Beautiful time of year to be a CHGO diehard.
Sure is.
The weather outside is frightful. Why not be a diehard in our community? Get access to our exclusive written content, a free t-shirt, plenty of discounts on merch and events, and access to our Discord lounge where we all hang out and talk Chicago sports and so much more. Go to ALLCITY for the latest information on how you can join all the sickos and diehards already waiting for you to join.
And Luke, you were talking about that frightful weather out there. Where I'm not going anywhere this winter without my Brunt work boots. They're lightweight, they are waterproof, and the best-selling Marin work boots are not only built for the toughest job sites, they're completely waterproof. Whether it's rain, standing water, your feet are always going to stay dry. Brunt knows they have the best boots on the planet, so they'll let you try out one of their products on the job. Choosing work boots used to mean sacrificing comfort or durability. Not anymore. Brunt, though, they cut out all the BS, and they have built tough boots that feel great from day one. No break-in, no sore feet, because people out there doing the real work need to get out there and comfort and do it with durability. The founder, Eric Gerard, he built it up from a blue-collar lifestyle. He saw all of his friends going out there getting into those fancy fashion brands. Now, Brunt is just tough and for the everyman. So here's what you got to do. With temps dropping and the holidays coming up, it's time to treat yourself or the hardworking man in your life to some real comfort. Skip the throwaway gifts and get him something built to last with Brunt workwear. Our listeners right now get $10 off their order when you use code CHGO for Brunt work boots.
Back on the CHGO Cubs podcast, presented by our friends at Toyota, we're going to give out our Craig Counsell report card. Ooh. Highly anticipated, often discussed. But today the report card is coming out. And earlier in the show, we were just talking about, we played the Jed Hoyer clip from Marquee, their Twitter page, where he was talking about in Vegas how pitching will be something they pursue. This is the other Twitter clip that we have from Marquee. Again, Marquee Sports Network is where you can get all your Cubs games.
Yes. So they say.
And this is Jed Hoyer from Marquee's Twitter page talking about the situation right now, how they got to where they're at with Shota Imanaga.
Ultimately, it was just we obviously value Shota a ton. I think he was amazing for us as a pitcher, as a teammate, and I don't want to close that door completely by any stretch, but ultimately, we didn't think that the club option was right value. He didn't think that the player option was right value, and that happens. And so, clearly we made him a qualifying offer, and there's nothing that prohibits us from still talking to him. So I don't want to close that door. But obviously, like I said, the way that we value the club option, the way he valued the player option, obviously we didn't meet up there.
You say you don't want to close that door. Is that just in terms of the...
That was Jed Hoyer talking about Shota Imanaga. So again, he has the 18th until he decides what he's going to do with the qualifying offer. A lot of people seem to think he's probably going to say no. And again, that doesn't mean he's not going to be a Cub next season.
Right.
Because like any team, they can still negotiate a 2-year deal, a 3-year deal for a less amount of money. Like, they still might give him an offer that makes it attractive enough to him to remain a Cub. But that's a piece of the Cubs rotation that we're not sure about. And again, that clip was from Marquee Sports Network. Sometimes it sounds like glazing, but it's not. It's just attribution.
Well, look, with the Shota thing, right, I've said it on a previous show, and I will say it again. If Shota's agent is worth his salt, there's no reason why Shota Imanaga at 32 years old can't get at least $30 to $40 million guaranteed, stretched across however many years that they prefer on a contract. And at $22 million for a 1-year deal is now the agent's job to go out there and field offers and generate buzz or interest to try and get that dollar amount. The Chicago Cubs could be that team, Luke, like on a 2-year deal for $30 million. very, very close to the AAV of what they gave Matthew Boyd. If that's the decision and road they want to go down, I can see a return. But again, I think it would turn into a waiting game past that qualifying offer if the Cubs and Shota Imanaga would ever reunite.
We've got to remember that the Cubs are, let's just say it's 5 spots, but we know it's way more like 8 starting pitchers at least that you've got to have.
100%.
You know, you have it. I'd say 10, to be honest with you. But
I think that's where the game is going. I think it's less about bullpen. I think it's more about multi-inning guys now. I agree.
But if you're just talking about 5 starters, old school rotation, if you believe that Shota is not worth the amount, if he says no to the qualifying offer, then you have to start to consider, all right, but what's it going to cost me to replace that production? And is that price going to be worth the change that we're looking for? They're clearly looking to change the mix-up of their rotation a little bit. They'd rather have more power arms, as Bruce Levine says, right? Like, yes, they need more flamethrowers. So Shota is not that. He's not. Now, because he plays up in the zone and it comes from a different angle, sometimes his speed seems a little bit higher, and that's why he's been successful for off and on for 2 years. But he's not touching 98. He's not touching 99. So what would it cost to replace that number? Now, Mackenzie Gore's one that's a yes. I don't know what it would cost. I don't know who it would cost, and that's the big question. But, yeah, you better pursue that if he's on the market. Imai from Japan, you touched on him earlier a little bit. Like, this is a guy who has more strikeouts than he does innings.
Correct.
Right? Like, so
yeah.
he is missing bats. And he's 28 years old in May, right-handed pitcher. And Jeff Passan predicted, you know, ESPN just tried to pick one guy for every team. He can't double up a name somewhere else. He threw that name out for the Cubs. He didn't throw out Cease. He didn't throw out Schwarber. He didn't throw out Imai. So what do we know about him?
So 27-year-old pitcher. You mentioned a guy that has more strikeouts per innings pitched. You are correct in that. If you just roll back and put his numbers, which I get is not an apples to apples comparison, but if you put his numbers up against some of the major league pitching of last year, his K per 9 rate would definitely be in the top 8 in baseball. So Dylan Cease led all Major League Baseball with 11.52. Just for a general area of where does he land, Paul Skeens at 10.36. And then if you go down a couple more spots, he's more in the area of where Logan Webb was at 9.74, Jacob deGrom 9.64, Framber Valdez, just for reference, 8.77 because he walked in with a 9.79 K9 rate in 2025. Couple things that you like about Imai. One, obviously the 27 years old. 2, throws 95 miles an hour, can touch up to 99 on certain different guns at different points last year on the season. In 2023, 10-5 record, 133 innings pitched, 8.8 K9 rate, higher walk rate, 4.13 with a 2.30 ERA, xFIP of 3.20. Last year, though, improved upon those numbers. More innings pitched, 173. K rate up 9.71. Walk rate down 3.63, 2.34 ERA with an xFIP of only 2.51. And then last year, which is I think is going to make him a ton of money, 10-5 record, 163 innings pitched, 9.79 K rate, 2.47 walk per 9 rate, 1.92 ERA, xFIP of 2.26, only allowed 6 home runs in that span. So this is a guy who, in theory, is entering the prime of his career. You're never exactly sure how his game is going to transfer over to the major league game because even in articles himself last year, Imai was complaining that the Japanese league has gotten so contact driven that he almost wished he had the challenge of facing more power versus power. And maybe that,
you know where you can get that?
Yeah, come on over here. Come on over here and hit the ball to left field at Wrigley or really, wherever you want to go. And so there's that aspect there. The home run rate was down, but does that have to do more with maybe the hitting profile of some of the players that he faced too as well? The other one that I picked up on and read that was interesting is a lot of people think that more can be extracted from his game. He's got a little bit of a shorter stride, and they're wondering if his athleticism can create even more extension, which might even give him some more bite and some more nastiness to see. He's a little bit smaller in stature, but again, big-time fastball, 27 years old. They're saying he's probably going to come in at around 140, 150. I guess the question is I have a hard time just as a fan because, look, I didn't watch Japanese baseball last year.
Know.
Yeah,
well,
right.
I watched 2 games in Japan.
Right, and not every single scout. Oh, yeah, exactly. At the beginning of the year, and then you called it.
The first 2 games of the year were played in Japan.
But not everyone can say with certainty that his game or profile will immediately transfer over to the major leagues. My question for you is, 27-year-old Imai with those kinds of numbers, it's pretty obvious, though, that Dylan Cease across the board, the numbers are just strictly better. Maybe the age is different, but the profile is almost exactly the same. It'll probably cost you in the ballpark of the same amount of money. So I understand maybe the unknown is attractive and interesting, and maybe it is the ideal scenario. But I guess my question for you is, what are you more intrigued by, Dylan Cease or a pitcher like Tetsuya Imai coming over?
Why not both? Like I know what you're saying. Like, that's an interesting comparison. Which would you rather have? I'd rather have the guy in Major League Baseball. If everything's equal, if you're telling me the numbers are equal, the age is close, one guy's had success, one guy hasn't been here yet, I would take the Major League guy. I would take Dylan Cease and see if I can turn him into the ace that we've always wanted him to be when he was a Cubs prospect, when he went to the White Sox, and he reached some of that level, but it wasn't a consistent like Crochet, I think, has almost passed at this point Dylan Cease. Okay.
Oh,
right?
on a consistency level, 100%.
Okay,
Dylan Cease can match him pitch for pitch when he's on, but consistency-wise.
I would like to get Cease back to Crochet level on that path, and maybe that's what he needs is just a change of scenery, if you will. I'm more interested in I don't know this answer, and maybe somebody out there in our chat does or a listener does. How far apart is the gap between certain players coming over from Japan, not to major league players, between each other, right? So, and how would they rank these pitchers that are coming from Japan? Is Yamamoto strictly the best they have? And then it's Ohtani, and then is it Imanaga? Is it Roki? Is it
the consensus is
Imai?
Consensus is Yamamoto coming over was a cut above everyone else. The consensus is also that Imai is a cut above Shota Imanaga and more in the Roki Sasaki range. Obviously, Roki, I believe, was 23 years old.
Yeah, I
so
mean,
far more attractive.
Little bit of a roller coaster, and he was
splitting the
cheap.
gap between those two players.
It's really age that also defines it. I mean, Yamamoto was entering free agency at 25, where if they sign him to a 15-year deal, he's done at 40. Sasaki, it was obviously not able to enter free agency. He had to enter through the, the international free agency. So his ability to make money was capped, where, Imanaga was pushing 30. I think it's mainly about age. Yamamoto, obviously, the best of the cut, but it's also the fact that he's 25.
Right. Yeah, and so I don't know what the gap is. For instance, if you're comparing 5 pitchers that are coming over from Japan, do you consider one of them to be Skubal and the next one is really good too? He's Justin Steele, but he's not Skubal. And the next guy, how far is the gap between the guys that you're willing to pay for? We don't know that. At least I don't, because I'm not watching Japanese baseball. I'm not. Yeah. But the gap between players coming from Japan and a Major League Baseball is not what it used to be. And there's been a lot of success coming over. And if you're telling me that it's Shota at a deal similar to whatever a deal might be, or just a few more years for a guy who's younger and throws harder and you think is actually better than Shota, then they have to start considering that. Now, there's competition potentially for both.
And now, I'm going to throw this hypothetical out to you, too, that there is a world. When you say sign them both, you got my wheels turning a little bit. And could you imagine if the Chicago Cubs said this to themselves let's just say it's Cease and Imai, and let's just pretend that the combination of those two pitchers, let's just say it's $60 million, and let's go a little bit higher. Let's say it's 60, right? So for those two guys, Cade Horton under control, and you maybe cross your fingers that either Jackson Wiggins is somebody, or you do have the Tyone or Boyd, with the 5th starter being Colin Ray, which only costs you $5.5 million. $70 million for a 5-man rotation. It doesn't sound that bad, right? It sounds fairly reasonable.
With Steele hopefully waiting in the wings.
Right. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, maybe that does make sense. If we're top heavy, we have homegrown, and then we figure out a way to round it out with something that's cost effective.
Hey, Joey, I wish we were billionaires. We've got this thing all figured out. We know how to run a team. We're billionaires now. All that has to happen is I win that next Mega Millions.
All that has to happen.
It's almost up to a bildo now.
The billions. We're ready.
We're
we
ready
just
for it.
need those billions. It's simple. It's really simple math.
Speaking of ready, are you ready for Craig Counsell's report card? And what grade would you give him? It's coming up next on the CHGO Cubs podcast, presented by Toyota. Winter is here. Greg Braggs was shoveling snow all day on Monday. That's the story he told. After a little research, we found out in Northwest Indiana, actually his wife, Jenny, did all the shoveling.
Interesting.
Is your home's heating up for the challenge? At Four Seasons, we guarantee same-day installation with no extra charge for nights, weekends, or holidays. You can save up to $4,000 on furnaces and comfort systems with Four Seasons heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electric. Their furnaces start at $39 a month, and AC furnace combos from $57 a month. Call today, save $50. Four Seasons heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electric has been serving the area for over 50 years. Your trusted local experts. Four Seasons, heatingcooling.com for all your special offers and money-saving coupons. That's Four Seasons, heatingcooling.com. You got to get that tune-up on the furnace. You don't want to go to turn it and then, no heat.
Yeah, even if
That's
your furnace
bad
is
news.
working, it's still can be dirty. You still got to get that
Gotta get it
tune-up
cleaned
every single
out.
year and
Yeah.
get it cleaned out.
That's a must.
And also, hey, sports fans, it might be the MLB offseason, but it is never the offseason for athletes. And I got a question for those athletes right now. Are you serious about leveling up your game?
Yes.
Because the right coach can change everything. And now finding one is easy with EyeOnTheBall.net. It doesn't matter if you're a kid just starting out or competing at the top level. You can sign up totally free at EyeOnTheBall.net. You just create a profile and then boom, search through countless coaches in your sport, and they'll connect you directly with the one that is right for you. There's soccer, swimming, baseball, basketball, polo, maybe even pickleball.
Swimming. I could use a swim coach.
We could
swim.
Get ourselves a nice little backstroke coach here down at CHGO. You name it, the coaches are there for you. So whatever you're waiting for, your future coach could be one click away. So jump on EyeOnTheBall.net. That's EyeOnTheBall.net. Find your coach today, and remember, take your game to the next level because you deserve it. EyeOnTheBall.net.
Back on the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by our friends at Toyota, it's time for our Taking the Temp segment here on the podcast. Your trusted local experts, Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Visit FourSeasonsHeatingCooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's FourSeasonsHeatingCooling.com.
I always think of like Doobie Brothers, Michael McDonald for this taking the temp thing. Taking it to the temp.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, thank you.
That's pretty good, but that's it's going to get
Oh,
us in
my
trouble.
Michael
If
McDonald
If it's
impression?
too close, it's going to get us in trouble. So stop right there.
I saw you send in a Q&A for Patrick Norton. He responded with a Michael McDonald song.
He did.
Yeah, Christopher Cross, Ride Like the Wind.
Ride like the wind, yeah.
I heard that.
long way to go.
Okay, stop. We're going to get in too much
I know,
trouble.
I'm gonna
Your-
get sued.
Your pipes are just too good for
It's
that.
too close.
So before the break, we were talking about Imai, how he might fit into the Cubs rotation. And we're on the precipice, I think that's the right word, of doing our Craig Counsell segment here in just a minute.
We're walking to the edge,
Our report cards. But there's another player we want to take the temp on in this group, at least one, of players that are thinking about posting and exploring Major League Baseball. Kazuma Akamoto. Is that good?
Got it.
Hello, Moto.
Nailed it.
Hello, Moto. Who is he? He's going to be 30 in June. What can he play? Third base and first base. Now, the description I saw was somewhere between good enough and fine
Yes.
defensively at third, and just as recently started playing first base. So you're not, for a team that has said, oh, we're big on the gold gloves and defense, he's not that, but he can hit. And so in that way, he sort of reminds me of Seiya Suzuki. I don't love his glove necessarily, but if he can hit, I like that because that also plays and can be very, very important. You're not going to get a perfect player every time. Like, there are very few perfect players in Major League Baseball. Maybe none, some would say, but Ohtani's pretty close.
Yeah, let's go with the pros.
What do you like about this guy?
What I like about him, just a quick little rundown, some easy stuff. Started playing in the KBO, or excuse me, for Japanese professional team in 2018. 6 straight 30 home run seasons from the moment he got into the league. has combined for only 42 over the last 2 seasons. Part of that had to do with injury that happened last year. I'll get to that in the cons. But interesting part about the last 2 years is in 2024, slash line 280, 362, 501, jumped up to 327, 416, 598 last year. Some would say he had a career year, but the power went down, the average went up. What is really interesting about it too is that I can't tell, who knows whether he's had an outlier year. Typically a guy that would strike out around 100 times a year and around 140 games played, only played 69 last year. Only struck out 33 times in those games with 33 walks. So is he entering a new phase in his career? Is he a guy that can do it all? Is he versatile, right? Is he a guy that can hit for power, or is he a guy that can hit for average? And the other pro about it is a lot of the projections out there right now have him signing a 4 or 5 year deal for about $50 to $68 million. So frankly, from an offensive perspective, he feels a little Matt Chapman-ish, kind of, because I'm not expecting him to come
without the glove.
Without the glove, offensively only, right? And I'm not anticipating this guy coming in and hitting you 280, 290 right off the jump. I just think that's an unreal expectation.
I wouldn't expect 30 home runs either.
Right. And his swing reminds me of a little bit of Tadahito Iguchi and a little bit of Andrew Vaughn. I'm sorry about the White Sox reference, but the swing kind of just sort of reminds me a little bit of that. Let's go to the cons. Elbow injury last year, only played 69 games. So the question is that a lot of MLB scouts are having right now is that can this guy stick at third base, or is he eventually really a first baseman? He has been tied to the Chicago Cubs with a couple of different outlets. I'm frankly a little confused of why the Cubs would be interested in Okamoto, the same way that they would be interested in Murakami, who's a left-handed, huge, big-time, crazy 70 power plus hitter who hit 56 bombs only 3 years ago, but strikes out a ton. So there are other left-handed options on the market for the Cubs to pursue, and we're having this weird bugaboo thing with left-handed hitters hitting at Wrigley all of a sudden. Why would they go after him? I'm also curious why the Cubs would go after Okamoto, who seems like a fine, average, possibly above average player, and maybe a really good veteran player on a playoff team. But is that really the reason why you're supplanting Matthew Shaw? Is that really the reason why you're moving? You move Matt Shaw into a utility role if it's Alex Bregman, in my opinion.
Not for him.
Not for a guy like this.
No. I want to add more positives to that, though. Like, I don't think I've seen everything from 3 for 36 to 4 for 64. What about 4 for like 70? So we're talking about an AAV of maybe $12 to $17 million a year.
Very affordable, very cheap.
Somewhere in there. And what it is, though, Joey, is an expensive but possibly huge upgrade to Justin Turner. How much are you willing... Like, if you can't move your left fielder and your right fielder this year because of no trade clauses, and you're a little stuck there and you're trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to get Owen Casey in the lineup, assuming none of these guys are traded away? How are you going to get bats for this guy? Here's a spot on your team. And we mentioned this, I can't remember the player we were talking before, and I just said, listen, he'd be a massive upgrade over... I think it was Gino Suarez. We're like, he'd be a massive upgrade over Justin Turner. You're not going to play him defensively over Shaw at third, but you can play him at third if you want to put Shaw in a utility role for a day or give Shaw some time off, or if Shaw has to go back to the minors next year. That's somebody. This guy can fit that role. Think more of like very expensive utility guy. Is that a spot where normally you wouldn't say, man, I'm upgrading at left field, I'm upgrading at first, whatever position. This is still a position on the team. You could greatly upgrade your backup position at third offensively, at first offensively.
For the Craig Counsell lefty versus lefty with Michael Busch.
First, DH.
Fair. Yeah.
I mean, you can move him. He doesn't have to have a definite position. Just because you're paying him that way doesn't mean you can't use him as quote unquote Ben Zobrist. Now, he's not as versatile as Ben Zobrist, but you are lacking a backup at third and you're lacking a backup at first. And this guy offers you a bat at both of those positions.
Right. And that's a great point. And it's tough, right? Especially when it gets to the offseason, right? And I want to be a greedy little Gus. Like, I want to be a greedy little Cubs fan. And I want it all, right? Or I want whatever it is, the finest I want to bring onto the team. he very much could be a guy that over the course of a long season and what you're talking about, some of those variables of the ins and outs and how you construct the lineup, he could be another great addition to a Cubs lineup that up and down prides itself on being having length and a next man up type of mentality. And I can't just sit here and say, if I'm anticipating PCA taking the next step, maybe adding a guy like Okamoto, who's just a veteran hitter, who's going to give you a good at bat,
hits velo,
right? Hits velo, is going to drive some guys in, a guy that can spell at first, a guy that can play a little third, a guy that can fit in at DH. Yeah, maybe it does make a little sense. I guess in my position right now, because I am being a greedy little Gus, I don't know. It wouldn't underwhelm me or overwhelm me. I think it would just kind of whelm me right now, where I do think that there are other big, shinier toys out there that I'll be honest, kind of have my fascination and my attention. If this is where it landed, and let's go back to our segment before on the other side of the break, when we say, what if we added 2 front of the rotation guys, or what if we did add an ace and maybe another really good 4 that made Tyone more of a 5 type guy, and then added an Okamoto just to push the offense a little bit further in the right direction.
Without Tucker?
I think I could start getting more excited because there'd have to be other moves tethered to it. But as of right now, I'm not really like banging the table saying I would want this guy in the Cubs.
I'm just reminding everyone, the way the Cubs were the best team in baseball was when Kyle Tucker was healthy and cranking in the first half of the season, right?
And that's just what I want.
But if you're not going to pony up the money, which I'm not saying this is the way to go, if you're not going to pony up for Schwarber or Tucker to keep that type of potential on offense, then you've got to find other places to start to build it back up. It's not all, hey, it has to be on spot A, spot B, spot C. You're going to have to find other ways. I'm not saying this guy's the right option at all. He's just an option.
I understand that Tucker was injured and all that crap. I still don't understand it. But the thing that Tucker gives you what Tucker gives you is consistency. Yeah. I know he fell off in the second half, but when you're talking about Okamoto, I feel like you're just adding another player who is
kind of similar
PCA level. No, I think he's going to. You're adding a guy that could be a possible I think wild card. I don't know if this is going to be a guy that absolutely hits, and he could just be a guy that's boom or bust, right?
Yeah,
like a guy that will just come in and just be a really solid level player. Unlike maybe Praz's favorite player, Ian Happ, who has all these ups and downs, right? Like I think you need a guy that can just come in and just hit 120 OPS plus in April, whatever.
Which would be great. But if he's more of the 250 hitter that hits about 20 bombs and 70 RBIs, it'd be nice. But we have those guys.
You know what you need when you have uncertainty on your roster, when you have uncertainty in your bullpen, when you have uncertainty in your slug, you need the best manager in baseball. Well, the Cubs went out and got Craig Counsell, and here we go, the much anticipated, highly discussed Craig Counsell report card. We timed this out because Manager of the Year was announced last night. Pat Murphy, Brewer skipper, wins it for the second straight year since Counsell left Milwaukee. So Counsell leaves, and his mentor has now won Manager of the Year back-to-back seasons. Let me just say this. I think that part of it means almost nothing.
Okay. All
almost nothing.
Doesn't feel good, though. Emotionally, right?
It doesn't. The optics aren't great.
On the sicko scale, it feels wrong.
Yeah, the optics aren't great. The feel isn't great. But winning Manager of the Year just means your team sort of exceeded projections.
Which they did. They were projected to win 84 games.
Which he's done.
Blew past
which
that.
Murphy has done 2 years in a row. This is not to take away from Pat Murphy. But I don't know how far. I only went back to 2016. The National League Manager of the Year has not won the World Series. Not back to 2016 to now. I didn't go any further than that. I can just tell you, Joe Madden was not the Manager of the Year in 2016. And Murphy hasn't won it the last 2 years. And I went every year in between there, and you know what it was? A bunch of teams that were not winning the World Series.
That surprised, that came out of nowhere. I bet you Bochy got a couple.
Very rarely is it Dave Roberts wins Manager of the Year because the Dodgers paid more money than everybody else.
Yeah.
it doesn't go that way usually. Usually it's a team that slides and you're like, wow, that was a pretty good year for the Diamondbacks. Didn't expect to see that, So it fits that narrative that a guy who's the highest paid manager is not winning manager of the year. I'm not even saying Murphy didn't do a good job. I'm just saying, as far as manager of the year and optics, I don't really care.
Can you name the last National League manager to win the World Series?
It's not Bruce Bochy.
Oh, manager of the year.
Tony La Russa.
Yeah, you might have to go all the way back to Tony La Russa.
But
nope.
No.
Tony La Russa won in 2002. They didn't win.
Dusty Baker.
Nope.
National League.
Jack McKeon, 2003 Florida Marlins.
Okay, so
Blackjack.
That's what I'm saying. Like that award and winning the World Series have almost nothing in common.
Right, and Pat Murphy, and let's be honest, I think he is a regular season award. I'm willing to offer and concede that I think Pat Murphy deserved it. They won back-to-back division titles,
deserved it.
exceed the projections on their wins, and also put together something that the Chicago Cubs weren't able to do. Like it didn't eventually matter, but just from a fandom standpoint, put together winning streaks of 8 games, 11 games, and 14 games. At one point from May 26th to the end of July, they were 40-15. I mean, that's a regular season that I think also matches what a manager of the year would probably win.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, but Craig was third in his own division, right? Because Francona finished ahead of him.
Finished second in the voting. So the top 2 guys in the National League were both in your division. You're in a division with some pretty good managers.
Right. And I get it. It doesn't matter because we're just focusing on our own business, but there is an optic to it that doesn't sit right with me. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with player development, regular season, and maybe we'll finish with postseason for your grades?
Let's go regular season first.
Okay.
We'll go right in order. Regular season, then postseason, then player development and overall grade. I'm going to start with my regular season. I gave him a B-, Counsell. And the B- starts with a B, Brewers minus. He was less than the Brewers. His team was less than the Brewers. B for Brewers, he was minus that. The positives for him, he navigated having no ace, no Justin Steele, basically the whole time. Like the whole season, he went without his ace. That's not easy to do. And it's not his fault if they don't have enough arms on the farm, and it's not his fault if they didn't build a deep enough staff. It's not the manager's fault. His job is to steer the ship to try and get them through the rough waves and the icebergs and all that stuff. He did that. He put out, saying in the regular season, you know what? Our grade is we need to get to 90 wins. Every year we need to get to 90 wins. He did it.
Yeah.
So on that part of it, hey, he's definitely succeeding. He's navigating. He's doing all these things. He adjusted with the bullpen. And I think he did some other things well. But he also blew a lead to a red-hot Brewers team, his former team, and his I can't give him an A. I frankly can't just give him a B because the Brewers still stepped on him and the Cubs and said, nope, still not your year. Still not your year. Get back on our broken escalators. Here we go again. So I gave him a B- for the regular season.
So for Craig Counsell in the regular season, I am going to land with a B. And by the way, Sean, that's a fantastic picture. He looks like Joker in Arkham Asylum right now. That's I'm actually loving that to no end. I'm going with a B for the regular season because 92 wins, that 90-plus mark that we want to hit, getting back in the playoffs, deserves to be applauded. What we kept hitting on is a theme all season long for the Cubs during the regular season is they were the king of the 2 out of 3. They never got too down. They really never got too high, right? And for the most part, I think the work that they did in those Kyle Tucker first couple months to pad themselves with the lead, I understand that the division slipped away from them, but it never got so scary that they were really in danger or peril of getting kicked out of the wild card. They stayed pretty steady across the season. I think the longest losing streak was maybe 4 games at one point. They did get swept a couple times towards the end of the year, but for the most part, I think they did a good job. The reason why I'm not going with an A either is we could say on the pro side of things that I think Craig Counsell has been good for a player like Michael Busch. I think we could say on the pro side of things, Craig Counsell has been good for a player like Matt Shaw. Or a player like Pete Crow Armstrong. I think Pete Crow Armstrong specifically from one year to the next is developed mostly because of the individual, but also the support and trust that Craig has put into him, that I'm going to keep running you out there and you're going to work through your issues. The con that I have, Luke, and man, how many times do we talk about it? When things went south in the second half, I felt like they were consistently slow to just grow a pair, talk to a couple of these guys and say, you know what, we're going to back off of you for a couple of days and try and do a reset. It came eventually through the middle of August all the way into September, and they came out on the other side. I felt like it happened maybe a little bit too late, and I don't know what's going to happen and how we're going to reflect on what happens with Kyle Tucker, but I do feel like at times the front office and Craig Counsell, who is the manager, so he gets his name on this stuff, mishandled the Kyle Tucker situation multiple times throughout the year, either through a lack of communication with just the fans and the media trying to let us know, what is this guy going through? When he's slumping right now, let us know that he's injured.
They might not boo you if they know you have a broken finger.
100%. Or get to the player and say, look, man, I get it that you're a grinder, but you're just not yourself. And we all know it, and you know it. And if we can just get you to sit down for 10 days and heal up a little bit, maybe you can come back and be the player that we want you to be. That happened a little too late. When they did it, Kyle Tucker came back and had a huge weekend in Anaheim. And then that next week, he had the calf strain that no one's in control of. But again, they tried to run him out in the outfield, and they burned through precious days where I don't think he was able to come back with enough time before the regular season ended to probably get himself into the game shape that maybe he would prefer to try and be an impactful player in the playoffs. So I think it's a solid B. I want to be generous and optimistic and positive, but a B with an asterisk, because I think next year, it's not a make or break, or I'm not getting dramatic, but now the first year was Craig sat around and observed the roster and got to know the organization. This year he had a little bit more input and bringing maybe in his Colin Ray guys or the type of team that he wanted. He needs to be applauded for the team, emphasizing base running and defense in spring training. But now in the third year, I kind of want to see where that $40 million gets me. Just a little bit more, right? And that would be my push on Craig Counsell.
I factored into the handling of Tucker, which I did not like. And I don't know who gets the blame. I don't know if Tucker gets some of the blame. I would think the manager probably gets some of the blame. I think the front office probably gets some of the blame. Didn't love all the way they handled the injuries. But again, for me, he steered the boat or the ship through some rough waters, and he got him to 90 wins. So I went passing grade B-. Now, postseason, I still gave him a passing grade because they won a playoffs series. They beat the Padres.
And it was cool.
So maybe C- is negative, but I went C- for his postseason grade, okay? Why? Because eventually you get to the end and he's still chasing the Brewers. It's still Brewers minus. It's still Pat Murphy minus.
Well, and if they didn't have to play the Padres, would they have been better suited to take on the Brewers?
Maybe, because the injuries wouldn't have been there. Like, again, the depth is not his fault. He had some really difficult situations. Do I think he sort of chased Pat Murphy in the postseason? I do, with the starters, and we're going to try Turner leading off the game.
Who was more proactive? Who was leading who down the matchup decision trail? Was it Pat Murphy or Craig Counsell? I think Pat Murphy was leading Craig Counsell more than our manager being aggressive on that.
I think he had more healthy players, so he was the cat, and I think Counsell was the very suspicious mouse. But still took the cheese, right? Still took the cheese. So it's a passing grade. Again, I loved a C- in school. It's not a great grade. It's not a horrible grade, but it's a passing grade.
Yeah, I was a little bit kinder, I suppose, in terms of the postseason, the B-, simply because I think a big knock on Craig Counsell, even with being with the Brewers, was, can he win a playoff series, right? I think that was one of the bugaboos coming over. Great regular season manager. What does he do in the playoffs? And you can't take it off his resume now. He made it past the San Diego Padres in that first round. So definitely a B- there. And I do like what he did in that postseason towards the end of the year, where we talked about a lot about who was auditioning and where were these guys going to align and slide into when we talk about the bullpen and the matchups and everything that we were going to see. I do like that Craig Counsell said, we're going to make Daniel Palencia our fireman. We're going to bring him in the sixth inning of games. You're no longer a closer. You're an out-getter, convincing those guys to buy in and just be dudes that helped get us to 27 outs. He does get a lot of credit for that. But again, in that Brewers series, either, I don't want to call it a step slow, but reactionary is what I kept using. Oh, the word I kept using was reactionary throughout that playoff series. And for that, I have to go B- because, again, division rival, Milwaukee Brewers. I still sit here and contend the Cubs are more talented than the Milwaukee Brewers. They should have won that series, and who knows what would have happened against the Dodgers. And I do feel like some of it had to do with the matchups and some of the decisions as much as it has to do with the players.
They would not have beaten the Dodgers.
I don't
but
think
with
so.
A healthy Cade Horton, I think they would have passed up the Brewers again. They started to at the beginning of the season, then the Brewers, credit to them, went on a great run, but Horton wasn't pitching like he was pitching. And once Horton showed himself like that, it was different. So the third category that we have kind of filtered in here, we got regular season, postseason, and then we have player development, and you touched on it a little bit. I think this is his strength.
Well, real quick, just because you pointed out about Joey's, it's the same on yours as well. So there's 2 postseason grades.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No. So that second postseason is player development.
Oh, yeah.
I'm changing it now.
The third category will be player development. So player development, I don't know where your grade is. Mine was an A. I think that's the strength of what he does. I think he's done a really nice job of handling PCA's ups and downs, right? He was, again, going down at the end of the season, in the regular season. We're starting to get worried. But young guys, whether it's Shaw, and Jed Hoyer probably is mixed in this decision too, sending Shaw down was the right decision.
Correct.
Okay? And they dealt with it correctly. And Palencia, when I thought Palencia was done, they found a way to kind of poke the bear a little bit. I think they did it during the season at one point where it was like, hey, you're not necessarily the closer. You know? And so I think he did you can't argue with what he's done with the development of Michael Busch. Now, we can argue that it's time now for him to face righties and lefties.
Yes, please.
That can be an argument. But player development, I can't argue with the result of what I've seen of, has this guy gone from spot A in his development up to spot like M, O, P. Like
where does it go?
Yeah, like he's climbing, and these guys all seem to be climbing right now. Now, is it a steady climb? Not always. But I think he has been the right manager for a lot of these young players.
Yeah, the progress isn't linear, and that is the nature of sports. So I do like that Craig Counsell has had that stable force of he's not. So here's the con, right? When we talk about player development on the other side, I think he defers and leans on veterans a little bit too much, where it's like Ian Happ, you're 2 for 26, or Dansby Swanson, you got 11 Ks in your last 3 games. We're just going to keep running you out there and not think that you need maybe a day off or a mental reset, or maybe just a reminder that you need to get it together a little bit to be able to earn the right to be out there every single day. But yeah, when we talk about PCA is prime example A. I thought what he did with Miguel Amaya towards the end of the year put Miguel Amaya in a position, if he had stayed healthy, to be someone that could be an offensive contributor for us this year. And I really like what the bullpen specifically, a lot of those guys were complimenting and applauding Craig and Tommy Hotovy and the pitching staff for taking care of them throughout the year, kind of knowing and managing and having a great open line of communication in regards to workload and not going over back-to-backs. And they never went 3 days in a row with Brad Keller until later in the year, and they knew when it was going to happen and how it was going to happen. I gave him a B+ in terms of player development. It has been an improvement from David Ross for sure. And I'm really curious to see, because now we have another set of guys that he needs to integrate into this team next year. And I'm specifically looking at Owen Casey, right? Owen Casey got his cup of coffee. Whatever they decide to do with him next year, I think he'll be on the team unless he gets traded. I want to see what Craig does with him to hopefully maybe bring him along and make it a compelling case that he deserves more playing time. And I want to see what happens with Jackson Wiggins and the decision that they make. Because a lot of
Mo Baller
and Mo Baller too as well. A lot of these guys deserve maybe a little bit more of a run over the course of a long season, depending on what they do with the roster. And so I'm going with the B+ right now with Counsell. I can't give him an A for sure, because a lot of the credit goes to the players first and foremost. Let's be very clear about that. And then overall, I gave him a B. It's a B for Craig Counsell. I think he can be an A manager at some point, but clearly needs to win some games next year, needs to go deeper in the playoffs, needs the roster to do it. Don't get me wrong, but a B manager right now for Craig Counsell.
I gave him the B- because he's still below the Brewers. Just my the constant theme, like he's below the Brewers, he's below Murphy, but he does have him back in the postseason. He's got him around. Did they end up winning as many playoff games as the Brewers? Or more? One more?
They ended up winning one more, right?
One more, I believe.
Yeah.
So
in total.
So he actually won more playoff games than Pat Murphy did this year. But I would take the bye and the division championship. That has to change next year.
Also, Pat Murphy won more games against the Cubs in the postseason than the Cubs
correct.
won against the Brewers.
He won the head-to-head.
touche.
And manager of the year twice in a row. So anyway,
it's hard to do.
Well, real quick, just I went down a rabbit hole in the last 2 seconds. It seems like after 2006, they stopped giving it to people that were worth a damn. Jim Leyland just won the World Series. He was named manager of the year in the AL. Ozzie named in 2005. They obviously won. Just throwing it out there. Mike Scioscia in 2002. Manager of the year, his Angels won. Outside of that, it's just been pretty much the Guardians, the A's, the Rays, and the Twins in the American League. There's a Ranger in there once.
The Dodgers only won 93 games, and they only had one healthy starter all year in Yamamoto. Roki Sasaki was a total mess, and they all came back. He still won the World Series, but Dave Roberts, no.
Cleveland's such a fantastic baseball organization. They have 6 managers of the year since 2007, have 0 World Series.
That's
Screw them.
Put them together with Milwaukee, Cleveland, Milwaukee. That's 8 managers of the year. Put it together. How many World Series championships? 0.
I'm glad we could hate Cleveland and Milwaukee together on this show.
Oh, it's fun.
Come together.
Still the heartland. Anyways,
Ohio ain't great.
Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by our friends at Toyota. Thanks to Praz, Ron, Jordo, everybody that joined in the live YouTube chat. Make sure if you're listening to this on Spotify or in podcast form, check us out on the YouTube page, CHGO Cubs YouTube page. Like it, tell a friend, subscribe it, tell a neighbor, tell the strangers, tell everybody. Until next time, that's tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We'll be back with more. Until then, thanks for watching. Fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.